Tell a lie, and you die a bloody death. 5 strangers have 60 seconds to confess their worst sins, or get torn apart by spinning saw blades. So, let's jump right in. Today, 5 trapped strangers wake up right in the middle of this bloody nightmare, finding themselves locked inside a terrifying, abandoned room with heavy iron buckets clamped over their heads. Thick iron chains wrapped tightly around their necks, with the other ends hooked directly to a massive, high-speed circular saw blade spinning in the dark. No one understands how or why they were brought here, but before anyone can make sense of the horror, a sinister voice echoes throughout the room. Confess, the truth will set you free, but break my rules, and you will die. This isn't the voice of a savior, it's the cold, calculating mastermind behind this deadly game, and without wasting a single second, he begins laying out their deepest, darkest sins one by one. Every single person in this room has committed unforgivable atrocities in their past without a shred of remorse, and now, the universe has come to collect its debt. Suddenly, the red lights on top of their helmets flash to life, the saw blades roar into overdrive, and the iron chains begin slowly reeling them in toward guaranteed butcher. They have exactly 60 seconds to live. Consumed by raw panic, they pull with everything they have, but the iron chains don't budge an inch. Meanwhile, one of the men is still lying unconscious on the floor, completely oblivious to the fact that he is drifting closer to his doom with every passing second. Just as all hope seems lost, a girl named Anna cracked the twisted logic of the game. She hesitatingly shoves her arm straight into the path of the spinning blade, and the moment the sharp teeth cut deep into her flesh, her red light turns green, instantly freezing her chain in place. Seeing her survive, the others immediately realize what they have to do, slicing into their own limbs to stop their chains just in time. But one girl hesitates, failing to grasp the mechanism, and in the very next breath, the spinning saw tears violently through her spine, killing her on the spot. Right then, the unconscious man finally opens his eyes, but before he can even process the horror around him, his time runs out, the chain yanks him forward, and the roaring saw brutally dismembers him. Instantly, the doors swing open for the 4 survivors, but before they can even catch their breath, they lock eyes with another horrifying setup ahead, realizing with growing dread that the real game has only just begun. Meanwhile, news of this gruesome trap sends shockwaves across the entire city when the police discover a body hanging high off a bridge. It's the exact same man who was just slaughtered in the first game. Given the terrifying nature of the crime, the case is immediately assigned to Detective Halloran, a brilliant but hot-headed investigator, and his partner Hunt. Moving quickly, they rush the body straight to the morgue, where forensic pathologist Logan and his assistant Eleanor begin the autopsy. But the moment they remove the heavy helmet, a wave of shock hits the room. The victim's head has been utterly shredded in a display of sickening brutality. As Logan digs deeper into the horrific wounds around the neck, he uncovers a hidden USB drive neatly tucked inside the flesh. Plugging it in, the distinct, chilling voice of the killer fills the morgue, declaring that the games have officially begun and will not stop until every sin against the innocent is paid for in blood. The detectives freeze in disbelief. That voice belongs to John Kramer, the legendary Jigsaw killer who died 10 years ago. Panic quickly ripples through the precinct because everyone knows Jigsaw has been dead for a decade, leaving one terrifying question burning in everyone's mind: is John Kramer somehow still alive? While the police scramble for answers, the nightmare escalates for the 4 remaining survivors as they enter the next trap. Right on cue, a creepy, mechanical doll glides toward them with a white card hanging from its neck, displaying a single, ominous word: confess. Panic flares as the group stares in confusion, but before they can react, the doll lets out an unsettling laugh, and the iron collars around their necks slam tight, violently dragging them across the floor. Desperate for leverage, Anna desperately grabs onto a wooden support beam, but she has no idea that this second trial is far more sadistic than the last, demanding absolute truth to stay alive. As death pulls them closer, their masks begin to slip, and Mitch is the first to break under the pressure. He screams out his confession, admitting that for a measly $600, he knowingly sold a broken motorcycle to a kid, leading to a fatal crash. But even while confessing, Mitch refuses to take real accountability, whining that the kid's own speeding was to blame for the wreck. That was the dark genius of this game. It forced people to speak the truth, but human nature always drove them to twist it into a self-serving excuse. The moment Mitch finishes his confession, the mechanism suddenly grinds to a halt, but before anyone can even sigh in relief, they look up and spot a heavy iron grate hanging right above them. Suddenly, 3 mysterious syringes slide into view. Seeking answers, Mitch hits play on a tape recorder attached to the doll, and once again, the killer's cold voice fills the room. The tape exposes another hideous crime committed by someone in the group, a daylight robbery where a woman was mugged for her purse. But it wasn't just a simple purse snatching, because inside that bag was her emergency asthma inhaler. Without it, the poor woman collapsed onto the pavement, gasping for breath, while the thief callously ran off into the night, leaving her to choke to death. Now, it was time to balance the scales, and the killer reveals that out of the 3 syringes presented before them, 2 are filled with lethal acid, while only 1 contains the real antidote. If they injected the right syringe into the actual culprit, all 4 of them would survive, but if they made even the slightest mistake, they would all be slaughtered in the blink of an eye. The color drained from their faces the moment they heard the rules, having absolutely no idea which needle held the cure or who the real sinner was. But then, everyone's eyes slowly shifted to Carly's pale, terrified face, and in that instant, they realized she was the one the killer was targeting. Ryan immediately snatched up all 3 syringes, demanding that Carly make a choice, but staring death right in the face, she completely panicked. Terrified that picking the wrong one would doom not just herself but everyone else, she kept backing away, flatly refusing to choose a needle. Ryan kept desperately shouting at her to just pick one. But suddenly, the iron chains snapped tight once again, hoisting all 4 of them violently into the air, making it impossible to even breathe. Just when it seemed like they were all going to suffocate together, Ryan made a horrifying but completely necessary decision, and in the very last second, he violently plunged all 3 syringes deep into Carly's neck. As Carly slowly turned her head, the others watched in pure horror as the 3 needles stuck out of her skin, and within seconds, the fluids began to take effect. The brutal chemical reaction from the acid immediately began melting her internal organs, sending thick blood pouring from her eyes, nose, and mouth until she died in agonizing pain. But this twisted game of death was far from over, as Ryan became convinced that the killer was intentionally messing with their heads. In his mind, the massive door heavily painted with the words "No exit" was actually their real way out, absolutely certain that the killer was just trying to mislead them so no one would dare try to open it. Thinking he was outsmarting the trap, Ryan decided to take matters into his own hands, determined to smash the lock and force his way out. Seeing this, Anna and Mitch desperately tried to stop him, terrified that he was walking straight into another deadly snare, but Ryan refused to listen to a single word. He grabbed a heavy shovel and was just about to strike the lock when a hidden, incredibly dangerous trap was suddenly triggered, instantly snaring Ryan's leg in a brutal steel wire loop. The harder he fought to rip himself free, the tighter the razor-sharp wire dug into his flesh, making him scream out in pure agony. Unable to watch him suffer, Mitch immediately grabbed the fallen shovel and swung it hard against the floorboards concealing the trap. As the shattered wood cleared, they spotted another tape recorder hidden beneath, but getting to it wasn't going to be easy because the entire crawlspace was heavily rigged with tripwires. Mitch grabbed a nearby garden rake, carefully sliding it right through the deadly web of wires. But just as he was about to hook the recorder, the rake clipped one of the triggers. Instantly, the massive pulley system violently snapped into reverse, shattering the rake in a split second and yanking the razor wire even deeper into Ryan's mangled leg, sending him into blood-curdling screams. Seeing his friend being torn apart, Mitch threw caution to the wind, plunging his bare arm straight into the rigged wires to carefully snatch out the tape recorder. The moment he pressed play, the killer's chilling voice echoed through the room once again, openly mocking Ryan for always trying to cheat his way through life by taking shortcuts, a flaw that was now about to cost him his leg. The voice then offered him one brutal way out, explaining that if he truly wanted to be free, all he had to do was pull the mechanical lever located right next to his trapped foot. As Ryan agonized over what to do, Anna and Mitch desperately searched for another escape route, completely unaware that they were walking straight into a small, isolated silo. But the moment they stepped inside, the heavy metal door slammed shut behind them, trapping them both inside the claustrophobic space. Suddenly, a dusty television screen flickered to life, and the same terrifying mechanical doll appeared on the static-filled monitor. The doll announced that the most gruesome phase of their game was about to begin, proudly declaring that this time, there was absolutely no way for them to escape on their own. However, their survival now rested entirely in the hands of one man, Ryan, because if he could just bring himself to pull that lever next to his leg, both of them would walk away alive. The screen instantly cut to black, and a massive torrent of grain began violently pouring in from the ceiling above. At first, the two of them didn't understand what the actual danger was, but the heavy grain quickly piled up higher and higher, soon reaching their chests. Acting just like quicksand, the weight began sucking them down into the floor, prompting Anna to scream at the top of her lungs, desperately begging Ryan to pull the damn lever. But out in the hall, Ryan still couldn't bring himself to do it, completely paralyzed by the fear that pulling the lever would trigger something horrific for him. Meanwhile, the nightmare inside the silo kept escalating as a hidden machine roared to life above them, suddenly raining down massive, razor-sharp farming tools directly onto their heads. A massive butcher knife plunged straight into Mitch's shoulder, while heavy, rusted nails drove right through Anna's hands. Writhing in unimaginable pain, they practically begged Ryan for their lives, revealing the twisted reality that this specific game was designed to test Ryan's absolute selfishness. Just moments ago, he had ruthlessly sacrificed Carly without a second thought to save his own skin, but now the tables were turned, forcing him to sacrifice pieces of himself to save someone else. Finally, pushed to the absolute brink by the agonizing screams of Anna and Mitch, he let out a guttural roar, slamming his hand down on the lever, and through the horrific, bone-crushing sound of his own leg being severed, he managed to save his two remaining companions. On the other side of town, the police investigation was still spinning its wheels when they suddenly recovered Carly's mutilated corpse. During the examination, investigators discovered mysterious blood samples wedged deep beneath the fingernails of both victims, an alarming breakthrough that was immediately rushed to the lab for a DNA test. But when the final report came back, a bone-chilling wave of terror swept through the entire police department, because the DNA was a flawless match to only one man on Earth, John Kramer. This impossible revelation deepened Detective Halloran's paranoia, convincing him that the real killer was hiding right under their noses, turning his immediate suspicion toward Eleanor, the forensic assistant who harbored a deeply unsettling obsession with Jigsaw's infamous traps. Moving silently, the detective began tracking her every move without her knowing, and his relentless digging soon led him to Eleanor's dark secret, a hidden, underground workshop. Inside, he discovered exact, fully functional replicas of John Kramer's most terrifying machines, instantly cementing his darkest suspicions and leaving him absolutely convinced that Eleanor was somehow intimately connected to this brutal new slaughter. Back inside the warehouse, the three survivors were temporarily safe, and while Anna was busily bandaging Ryan's mangled leg, Mitch's eyes caught a cassette player hidden underneath the hood of a nearby tractor. Without hesitating, he pressed play, instantly activating another brutal snare as heavy ropes whipped out, hoisting him upside down into the air while the cassette blasted his darkest secret for everyone to hear. The killer revealed that Mitch had only confessed to half the truth. The motorcycle he sold to that young boy didn't just have one bad brake, but both brakes were completely wiped out, a fatal detail he deliberately hid out of pure greed, leading directly to the kid's horrific death. But the most devastating revelation was yet to come. The boy who died on that rigged bike was none other than Jigsaw's own nephew. Mitch's face turned completely ghost white as the horrific truth set in, realizing that the killer had taken the exact same motorcycle engine that stole his nephew's life and converted it into a deadly, high-speed shredder machine, set to tear Mitch apart in the exact same gruesome fashion. Yet, keeping with his twisted code, the killer offered him one final chance at redemption, instructing Mitch to reach inside the whirring shredder and pull the brake lever at just the right split second. But attempting to jam a hand into a heavy-duty blade spinning at thousands of RPMs was practically a suicide mission, forcing Anna to step in by jamming a nearby iron rod directly into the bike wheel to lock it. For a brief second, the roaring mechanism ground to a halt, giving Anna a flicker of hope that they had actually beaten the trap, but the metal rod suddenly snapped under the immense torque, sending the machine spinning faster and more violently than before. With no time left to react, Mitch was dragged directly into the blades as the shredder instantly turned him into a bloody pulp, a stomach-churning sight so graphic that anyone watching unedited would instantly vomit on the spot. Meanwhile, on the outside, in a desperate attempt to quell the rising panic and shut down rumors running wild across the city, the police decided to exhume John Kramer's grave to prove once and for all that the mastermind was dead and buried. But the moment the heavy casket lid was pried open, horror washed over every officer present. John Kramer's skeleton was nowhere to be found, replaced instead by the fresh body of a petty criminal recently busted by the senior inspector. The entire investigation was devolving into a ghostly nightmare, completely baffled as to how a man buried 10 years ago was actively dropping matching DNA at fresh crime scenes, leaving behind brand new voice recordings, and somehow swapping his corpse with a fresh victim inside a locked grave. Realizing these overwhelming clues didn't add up, the senior inspector became convinced that this couldn't possibly be the work of one man, concluding that a fanatic syndicate was operating under the legendary Jigsaw persona. Certain that Dr. Logan and Eleanor were the masterminds pulling the strings, he mobilized the entire force and executed a massive tactical raid on Eleanor's secret workshop, furiously tearing the facility apart for evidence. While sweeping the area, the inspector spotted a bare light bulb dangling near a hidden door, but the second he flipped the wall switch, a mutilated corpse tumbled out from the shadows, the fresh body of Mitch. What made the situation exponentially more chilling was the realization that the game was still actively running, meaning Anna and Ryan were still trapped alive somewhere in the dark. Understanding that nobody was coming to save them, Anna grabbed a heavy shovel and began furiously bashing against the reinforced door, finally managing to prise open a small gap after agonizing effort. Thinking she had finally broken free from this death house, a sinister figure wearing an iconic pig mask suddenly lunged from the shadows, knocking Anna unconscious before she could even scream. When Anna finally woke up, she found herself and Ryan bound in heavy chains, but their blood ran cold the moment they looked up at the figure standing before them. It was John Kramer, the legendary killer who died 10 years ago. Time seemed to freeze in absolute disbelief, every logical thought shattering at the impossible sight of a dead man standing fully alive in front of them. But without missing a beat, Kramer began reciting their unforgivable sins. He revealed that back in high school, a reckless, drunk driving Ryan caused a catastrophic car crash that claimed the life of his best friend, only for Ryan to cold-heartedly pin the blame on the deceased driver. But Anna's secret was even more monstrous. Unable to stand the constant crying of her innocent infant daughter, she smothered the baby to death with a pillow, callously framing her own husband for the murder until the overwhelming guilt drove the poor man to commit suicide. Now, the bill had finally come due for both of them, but following his sacred doctrine, John offered them one final, cryptic way out by holding up a double-barreled shotgun, pulling out a single shell, and declaring that this bullet was the key to their freedom. He loaded the shell into the chamber, locked the heavy door without another word, and left them alone in the dark. Terrified by the horrifying setup, both assumed John Kramer wanted them to murder each other so the lone survivor could walk free, a realization that instantly shattered any remaining trust in the room. Refusing to lose a single second, Anna sprinted straight toward the shotgun, snatched it up, and pointed it dead at Ryan's chest as blind panic completely wiped away her sanity. Ryan desperately tried to reason with her, begging her to realize that this was just another twisted psychological trap, but Anna was utterly convinced that shooting him was her only golden ticket to survival. Without a second thought, she slammed her finger onto the trigger, completely oblivious to the fact that the shotgun had been rigged with a reverse-firing mechanism. Enjoying the story so far? Hit subscribe, and let's keep going. Because of the reverse-firing mechanism, the blast blew backwards straight into her own head, killing her instantly. Ryan managed to survive the blast, only to realize he was now the most tragic victim in the entire game. The key to unlocking his chains was hidden inside that very shotgun shell, which had just been blown to smithereens. In that devastating moment, John Kramer's parting words echoed through his mind. This bullet is the key to your freedom, and he realized with gut-wrenching horror the catastrophic mistake they had made. Meanwhile, Eleanor finally tracked down the location of the abandoned farmhouse where the gruesome trial was taking place, rushing to the scene alongside Logan so they could solve the case themselves and clear their names. But they had no idea that Detective Halloran was silently trailing their every move, leading to a tense, Mexican standoff inside the structure where the final fate of this nightmare would be decided. Still convinced that Logan and Eleanor were the killers, Halloran drew his weapon, pushing the tension to a breaking point where a single trigger pull could end it all. Logan tried to defuse the situation, but Halloran instantly knocked him unconscious before taking off after Eleanor. Just as Halloran gave chase, a mysterious figure lunged from the shadows, striking the detective from behind and knocking him cold. When Logan and Halloran finally regained consciousness, they found themselves locked in a brand new chamber with high-tech laser collars fitted tightly around their necks. John Kramer's chilling voice echoed through the room one last time, announcing the final round of the game, survive or die, with confession as their only salvation. Without wasting a single second, Halloran tried to shift the blame onto Logan, demanding he confess first to trigger his survival, which immediately activated the lasers around Logan's neck. As the glowing blades began slicing into his flesh, a panicked Logan broke down, confessing that years ago during his medical residency, he had accidentally swapped John Kramer's X-ray reports with another patient's, delaying Kramer's cancer diagnosis until it was far too late. The moment the confession was uttered, the collar flared up, and the lasers sliced clean through Logan's neck, dropping his limp body to the floor. Now it was Halloran's turn, the lasers above him activated, slowly humming to life as the deadly beams began cutting through the ceiling, descending straight toward his face. Paralyzed by the terrifying sight of his imminent death, the corrupt detective began frantically confessing to his long list of crimes, admitting to framing innocent people and letting murderers walk free for cash. The moment he finished, the laser system ground to a halt, leading Halloran to believe he had actually won the game. But then came the ultimate twist. Logan, the man everyone thought was dead, casually stood up from the floor, revealing that his laser collar was a total fake packed with artificial blood packs. The entire spectacle had been a meticulously engineered setup designed specifically to force Halloran into confessing his atrocities on tape. Logan then dropped the bomb that completely shattered everything the audience thought they knew. The warehouse game everyone had been watching wasn't happening in the present day at all. Opening a side door right next to them, Logan revealed the decaying, skeletal remains of Ryan and Anna, who had been dead for an entire decade. This unveiled the ultimate twist of the story. The 5-person game shown throughout the movie had actually taken place 10 years ago, designed personally by John Kramer as his very last game before he died. The director had pulled off a brilliant illusion through seamless, parallel editing, keeping the audience completely deceived the entire time. Logan then revealed his true identity. He was the unconscious man from the very first trap 10 years ago, saved at the last second by John Kramer himself when the killer realized the X-ray swap was an honest mistake that didn't warrant a death sentence. From that day on, Logan became Jigsaw's very first apprentice, working alongside Kramer in secret to construct his most iconic death traps. 10 years later, Logan orchestrated this entire copycat game to avenge his wife, who had been brutally murdered by a violent criminal whom Halloran had corruptly released back onto the streets. Every single detail, from the body in Kramer's exhumed casket to using Eleanor as an unwitting scapegoat, was part of Logan's master plan to bring Halloran to justice. With the truth fully exposed and the debt finally due, Logan pressed the final trigger without a shred of hesitation, activating the laser trap above Halloran's head. Before the detective could even process his fate, the lasers sliced through his skull like a watermelon, scattering his remains across the floor as blood splattered the entire room. The game was officially over, bringing this legendary chapter of Jigsaw to a brutal, unforgettable close. And with that, our story comes to an end, so if you enjoyed this ride, make sure to smash that subscribe button, leave a like, and drop your thoughts down in the comments below, because I'd love to know what you think.